All right, welcome into the PFF NFL Daily. No Steve today, so I'm joined by Anthony Treash, PFF superstar, big into the college football, Anthony. So I thought you would be a perfect person to bring on and talk favorite draft comps, player comps for a few different draft picks. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I'll try and match Steve Palazzolo, one of the PFF legends. I think he's more of the superstar. But no, yeah, I love college football. Obviously, the league college guy. And I got some good player comps. I got a couple of deep cuts
Nice.
that you might remember from a few decades ago.
I like it. Going way back in the archives. But first, you can get 50% off right now, PFF Elite annual subscription if you use the promo code DRAFT50. That's the cheapest you're ever going to find this. A full Elite subscription, 50% off, 365 days of Elite. You can get all of PFF's locked article content. You can get the draft guide. In fact, you'll get 2 draft guides for the price of 1 with those 365 days worth of access. 250 plus 3-page scouting profiles, completely unlocked mock draft simulator, data and grades from the entire 21, upcoming 2022 season, and previous seasons archived as well. That's promo code DRAFT50 for 50% off a PFF Elite annual subscription. Also, PFF just launched Hutch, a 4-part podcast series with the #1 overall draft prospect, Aidan Hutchinson, launched April 13th, Wednesday this week. The show includes interviews with Jim Harbaugh, current and former Michigan football players, key members of Aidan's family, media members, and draft analysts. So check out Hutch wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify and this YouTube channel right here. All right, what have you got, Tresh? What's your first player comp that you love?
I'm going to start with one of the newer guys, the one still playing. I'm going to go with Jason Kelsey, center. My comp, Tyler Linderbaum. Those two are very similar to me. And,
Right.
you look at Tyler Linderbaum, what stands out? He's small, but he's an ultra athlete. He's also a polished player. I mean, that's Jason Kelsey, who's been one of the best centers in the NFL over the years. And I think Tyler Linderbaum has that same type of potential there. This past year, broke the PFF college record for the highest single season PFF grade we've ever seen at the Power 5 level. And just the year before that, he had the 5th best PFF grade we've ever seen among that same group there. So, I mean, the dude's had consistent elite level play. And I think that's going to translate to the pro game, despite him being a little bit undersized. I think you get him in a zone scheme there, a zone offense. That's where he fits best on the move. I think you're really going to see this guy kind of get to, I would say pretty close to top 5 status. I think he could be a, perennial all pro really at the position. So that's my first player comp, the new one, before we get into the old ones. What do you got now?
I think that makes a ton of sense. I mean, people say that Tyler Linderbaum is undersized, but that's like the counter to that, right? Is you can be undersized and still be the best center in the NFL in Jason Kelsey, and Linderbaum, I think, has that potential. I'm going to go into the history books before you do. I'm going to beat you to the punch. So Malik Willis, right? What are these quarterbacks this year? How good are they? What can they be? Malik Willis reminds me of Cordell Stewart, right? The guy, the old Pittsburgh Steelers, started off quarterback and then became Slash. That was the nickname because he was a quarterback slash receiver slash return man slash just gimmick within that offense. Malik Willis feels to me like Cordell Stewart, adjusted for inflation, like a modern version. And I think much more dangerous because that guy in today's NFL, the NFL is just better equipped to use a player like that.
Yeah, I feel like I remember Cordell Stewart. Was he on like an old game show? What was that? Was it Pros versus Joes or something like that? Was that him?
I don't know if I don't remember
I don't know.
Cordell
I could
Stewart
be
on that.
getting it wrong, but
But
yeah,
but
I remember.
one thing I think that's worth pointing out with Stewart is that Stewart had an absolute cannon of an arm as well. Like that is Malik Willis's calling card right now. Strongest arm in the draft, like incredible deep ball. The thing that everybody pulled out from that pro day was that crazy throw, rolling to his left and then dropping a 65-yard bomb. There's a video out there on Twitter of Cordell Stewart, unleashing a deep ball on the sort of Pro Bowl skills challenge, when they used to have a longest pass competition, and Cordell Stewart was out there throwing 70 plus yards as well.
Yeah, I just looked it up too. He was a TV superstar. It's another thing out there. Maybe Malik Willis could be the same thing. But no, I really like that comp. That's a good one. I'm gonna go back old now. I'm gonna follow your suit. Sauce Gardner. He reminds me a lot of Nnamdi Asomugha, and not Philadelphia
Wow.
Eagle Nnamdi Asomugha, but I'm
No.
talking, good prime Oakland Raiders Nnamdi Asomugha. When you look back at the early PFF database, I mean, when you were helping get the company up, back in the heyday, I mean, he had some of the best lockdown numbers we've ever really seen, right? You go back and you go the PFF era numbers as far as, who allowed the fewest yards per coverage snap in a season. Nnamdi Asomugha, I think back in like 2008, he was up there. He might have the number 1 mark across all cornerbacks of the PFF era. I mean, he's tall, lanky guy. He had very good mirror ability. Pretty good athlete. You can put him on an island and trust him to win. That's Sauce Gardner. I mean, Sauce Gardner in the PFF college era, he has the best lockdown numbers that we've ever seen, not allowing a touchdown and over 1,000 coverage snaps. So I really like that comp for him. And so, I think that's probably, I got to say, might be my favorite comp in the entire class.
Nice. Asomugha had a year where he was the least targeted cornerback in the NFL, right? And a lot of it was because he was amazing. And a lot of it was also because the guys on the other side of him were very much not amazing, right? So there became this thing of, why would you bother targeting Nnamdi Asomugha when you can hit the other side of the field and have joy? So there was a year where Nnamdi Asomugha had like 21 targets or something as a full-time starting corner, went the entire season and basically was not thrown at for the entire year. I like that comp. I don't hate that one at all. Sky Moore is intriguing player, because a guy that I think we're higher on than a lot of people. Mike Renner certainly loves him. Potential first round type of talent. Sky Moore reminds me a little bit of Julian Edelman with a little bit more juice athletically, sort of across the board, right? He's a little bit faster, like a 1/10 of a second in the 40, a little bit bigger, is sort of arms, hands, those kinds of things. And just a little bit more physically gifted version of Julian Edelman, but same toughness, same ability to play inside or outside, go over the middle, make those crazy plays that Edelman kind of turned into a career, and probably perennially underrated and sort of miscast a little bit.
I like that. I mean, Sky Moore, tough as nails, like you said. He's not afraid to make those plays over the middle of the field. And you look at the Western Michigan tape, you can see that routinely. So, it would be nice for Mac Jones if he did end up in New England, because, I mean, Lord knows New England still needs help at wide receiver. And I think that would be a good fit for him. But I do like that player comp. I'm going to stick with wide receiver here, and I'm going to see if you remember this one. About 10 years ago, I got Chris Olave. He reminds me a lot of Johnny Knox, the old Chicago Bears wide receiver. Yeah. Not much of it after the catch guy. He's not a tackle breaker, right? But he's a vertical threat. He's got the speed, and he knows how to set up defenders. I think Chris Olave is a little bit better as a route runner, but I think those two, their games are very, very similar to me. Of course, before Johnny Knox had the unfortunate injury that ended his career, a few years in there. But, I think you look at Chris Olave over the last 3 years at Ohio State, leads the Power 5 in deep receiving touchdowns, got open at a rate around the 97th percentile in the FBS. I just think he's a very high floor number 2 receiver in the NFL, and that's very valuable.
Yeah. I don't hate that one. That's not a bad comp. I haven't seen that one before either. I want to hit Jordan Davis now, because he is one of the strangest players in this draft to try and comp. Have you got a good Jordan Davis comp? Put you on the spot?
I kind of like Trev Sycamaz. He says Thanos, which I'm not I'm not into superhero movies, but I get the reference. I can kind of see that.
The Mike Renner has used this before, and actually Jordan Davis brought it up himself at the combine, that he'd been diving into John Henderson tape, the old defensive tackle for the Jaguars, the guy with the famous video of him getting slapped upside the head by the equipment guy before he went out in the field. I don't hate that as a comp. That's not a bad one, and it's kudos for Jordan Davis for having any idea like who the hell John Henderson was. He's kind of reminded me a little bit of Alan Branch. You remember Alan Branch? Old Michigan defensive tackle, and played for a bunch of teams in the NFL, the Patriots. He was on at one point. But Alan Branch was this 330-pound like monster who didn't move like a 330-pounder, right? Moved like more of a 3-technique type of player, those penetrating pass rushers. But because he's 330 and long, he's always going to get played in the middle as a run stuffer, as just a space occupier. But he always felt like teams never quite figured out how to use him best. And I wonder if we're going to see a little bit of the same with Jordan Davis, this guy who's whatever, he's 6'7", 340 pounds with these insane combine numbers and movement skills. And if teams are just kind of going to go, no, you're going to sit in the middle, use your size and your length and just plug up space, whether it'll actually tap into what he could potentially be at the next level.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And I keep bouncing back and forth with where Jordan Davis is actually going to end up, just to see which team really bites, because somebody's going to bite, right? Just on the potential, just because of the sheer absurdness of the way he can move at that size. I mean, anytime I think of him, I always think back to South Carolina head coach Shane Beamer after they played Georgia, and he had a little bit of a post-conference meltdown just describing Jordan Davis and the freak athletes Georgia's defense had. I do like the Henderson comp too. I mean, if he has that pizzazz in the locker room too, I mean, that's a little bit of value there. That's something that's not sprinkled into PFF4. It might should be.
Sure.
You know, I do like that Alan Branch one too. That's an oldie and a throwback. And I got to say, I was prepared to come in here and roast some of your comps, but I actually came away liking them, and I might steal some of those.
I meant to say up top, like for me, player comps are always stylistic. You know, people use like production or quality of career. Mine are always stylistic unless told otherwise, and I didn't tell you otherwise. So I'm glad you don't hate them. I didn't hate any of yours either. I thought overall these have been some pretty good comps.
It's a good PFF daily debut, but I'm right there with you. Stylistically, that's the way you got to do it.
That's why we don't get Austin Gale on, because he had some pretty terrible comps that we won't be using ever, and outside of his tweets. So anyway, this has been Anthony Treash, Sam Monson. Thank you. This has been the PFF NFL Daily.